'Tis I, Reltats, and today I'm going to subject myself to experiencing literal hell. Which is to say, I'm going to do Risk27 on CC12, Nightmare and Skill Level 2 Kirara as my carries. First up, I'm going to talk about the risks I'm using, or rather, I should talk about the ones I have not taken. I'm skipping Vendetta 4. As great of a meme as it would have been if I could have taken this, the 5 extra seconds of invulnerability were simply impossible to deal with. I'm not giving all of the enemies additional HP, because we can't afford to buff the real boss of the CC, the Dog Rush, at all. I'll be passing on all of the squad size and deployment down risks, as it is almost like my squad needs to compensate for some weak points or something in my roster, but that's impossible. There are no bad units in my grandpa's squad. I'm skipping the second altar risk because 502 damage every 7 seconds is simply too much for any of my medics to keep up with between all of the attack down, attack speed down, and HP down. Finally, I'm skipping enemy movement speed because giving the dogs movement speed up makes them scarier than Patty Daddy Phase 2 is to your ranged units. Beginning the mission, Elysium will deploy and begin shouting towards the heavens that he demands a rematch in his flag measuring contest with Myrtle, who will answer his call. Normally opening with Myrtle is better, but I need to activate Elysium first due to the slightly greater amount of DP he generates on skill and the weird way things lined up. Next, I'll be deploying Hung. Finally, those 30 primes I spent back during CC10 are paying off. Hung is actually the fastest charging healing defender when he's being hit by 3+ enemies, and the additional defense also comes in clutch here. Cliffheart will begin looking to continue the Silver Ash bloodline. This position might seem odd to those who haven't used her, but she actually has a wide range on her pulls and can pull the enemies on the lane despite them technically not being in her normal range. There's actually some pretty crazy tech here where you can actually pull enemies through the blue box, but unfortunately I need the extra distance here, so I could not take advantage of this. Hibiscus the Liar will join us next. Her skill deals damage on a set interval, so it's unaffected by attack speed down, and she inflicts Arts of Fragility, which will help compensate for the attack down by amplifying her own damage. But don't worry everyone, she's totally a medic. After this, we get our core DPS, Nightmare, in place. This is not a joke. Her skill 2 deals true damage to enemies based on the distance they move. Normally, this doesn't amount to much because she also slows the enemies who are affected by the skill, but the skill doesn't actually care how the enemies are moved, meaning shifters can make her skill function as intended. With all that said, we'll get Ethan, Enforcer, and Feeder into position to support Nightmare and help delay the lane. Feeder's silly 4-tile range in her skill 2 is such a godsend to this clear. Now we can finally move to finish our opener. After one more activation, Myrtle decides to throw Eli a bone and allows him to win this battle. She'll return to the land ship, opening a slot for Matterhorn. As soon as Nightmare procs her skill, I can recall Hung. I had to wait for the skill to proc so I wouldn't just fucking die to the dog. Now it's finally time for the star of our show, the legend herself, Skill Level 2 Kirara joins the battle. Now, you might be asking yourself, wouldn't Mana Core just be a direct upgrade here? Yes. This is where the fun begins. We are no longer blocking 2 lanes, and that's because we're actually going to use our excessive number of shifters to merge these lanes. You can make this only a slightly painful experience if done right, and thanks to my squad choices, I'm in no way doing this right. I did start this video by saying I was going to experience literal hell. It took 6 hours of attempts to both not mess up the timings and have Ethan not just troll the fuck out of me at the... yeah. While I did not give the dogs extra HP, the risk specific to the Weebs and Claw Weebs did give them a ton of extra HP. Even with the power of Nightmare on the side, these guys did not go down very fast, which means I got to have fun juggling them. Okay, now that I have a moment, holy hell, this is a dense clear. I have only covered the first 3 minutes of this 15-minute clear so far, and to be honest, I've been skipping over a bunch of smaller details. And by small, I mean fairly major things like Enforcer skill stunning enemies who touch other enemies when pushed, or the fact that Feeder has a weirdly large area where her push is counted, but the script is already like too crammed with too much information. Jesus Christ, why do I keep doing these things to myself? Hopefully pinch out will be easier. Our next mode of fancy timing, ignoring the entire left side skill timing breakdown, will be dealing with the caster that is moving to Matterhorn. We'll use Matterhorn's skill to give him 50 res, allowing him to survive Mr. Invisible Kastenheimer's damage long enough to get blocked so that Hibiscus can use her skill on him. But there's a weird quirk here, where if Matterhorn blocks 3 enemies, somehow the caster falls to the lowest in targeting priority, so I need to activate Hibiscus in the few frames that he becomes blocked, but before the other mobs also get counted as blocked. After this, I make my first timing fuck up on the left lane. This is late enough though that I can recall Eli without having to worry about DP, and early enough that I can still deploy Red without having to worry about that either. Thank you, Red, for always being such a good girl. I will make Province let you pet her tail later. Hung returns to the battlefield in the top lane to provide extra healing to Matterhorn and prevent us from getting overrun on block count up there later. I need to deploy him now so that he can block 3 people before the Ultra Instinct Weeb arrives, so that guy will just walk past Hung without getting blocked. Now, I know I said this is where the fun begins earlier, but now this is where the real fun begins. Or real pain. I might just be delirious after all of these attempts. Vendetta will attempt to charge directly into the blue box. Ambushers are able to trigger his charge, so I have to recall Kirara, moving her slow and damage, making the few remaining dogs into even greater nightmare fuel than they already were. Future Reltuds here. I did in fact have nightmares about these dogs the night after I did this clear, as well as Myrtle and Elysium being cats for some reason. Those who have been paying attention to the left side may now be saying, so, what's going on up there? It looks kinda bad. Yeah, it is. I was supposed to activate Hibiscus as soon as the caster got blocked, same way as the previous one, but this time I had several seconds to do this, but I had my horse blinders on, and I missed the entire window to do this. Luckily, Hung and Hibiscus are able to barely recover from this. Hung is really redeeming himself from the whole CC10 situation here. Now, to mimic a fraction of Kirara's power, I will deploy Robin, my beloved, to use her clips to provide whatever stalling I can get. Unfortunately, these are affected by the redeployment time increase, and Vendetta's Risk halves the time that he is bound, though without anyone on the lane, he won't actually trigger a charge, so he does move fairly slowly. The good news is, now we have all of the enemies on the battlefield, so it's just a matter of surviving this final onslaught. After Matterhorn's final enemies are dead, I can recall him, opening up a slot for Red, who will also be helping us mimic a fraction of Kirara's power. Truly insane how I need multiple ops to simulate what she, and no other operators, can do. Once Hung and Hibiscus have finished off the left side, we can recall them as well. Now it's down to Vendetta and his last couple friends to avenge their fallen comrades. Too bad for him, we have advanced war crime technology here at Rhodes Island. After everything else is dead, I will recall Feeder, since unfortunately for her, she has dodge chance. Eli will return to the battlefield to take a victory lap, and Kirara will also return to the battlefield. While this position is barely helpful, she does apply a 20% slow to 2 tiles. Sure, one of those tiles is the blue box itself, but we'll take whatever we can get. At this point, the stall for Phase 1 is mostly stable. In theory, Ethan could troll me with exceptionally bad RNG, but thank God that did not come up here. After finishing Phase 1, it's time for the scariest part of this clear. 15 seconds in which I cannot do anything about Vendetta's advance other than offer up human sacrifices. No skills can be used on him for these 15 seconds. The only thing that affects him are passive slows like Kirara's 20% slow to enemies in her range, which I immediately make harder on myself by deploying Matterhorn early, triggering a charge from Vendetta. Listen, it was 2 AM at this point. Thankfully, Red should be able to compensate for this by dodging. She does not. Thankfully, Feeder should be able to compensate for this by dodging. She does not. Okay, so it's all on Kirara and timing this last deployment with Hung. Let's go, baby! Solo carry Kirara at it again! She did all the work! With the phase change completed, it is now down to bullying Vendetta until his remaining HP runs out. Sorry, Vendetta, I'm sure you wanted to see Susie again, but if you want to join Rhodes Island, you're gonna need to step up your war crime game and commit some big boy war crimes. Don't worry though, Rhodes Island is offering a limited time scholarship program for those looking to major in war crimes. All you have to do is agree to join Instructor Dorothy's experiments and you'll get 50% off tuition. That's it for this clear. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can catch me molding live at twitch.tv/reltuds.